So this is a quick little video about Peralta Design. We now have offices in Florida and in Shelton, Connecticut. And we have a staff of 7 employees in-house. And this is some of the stuff that we do here. If you open it, man, that's like the last pack. It's going to go to the Smithsonian. And a lot of our services are what entrepreneurs need, like startup companies. That's still our niche. So I spent so much time with Jay that became really what I was most passionate about. So I'm a yes guy. And anybody that comes to our place and has an idea, I'm like, yes, that can happen. And I need my team members to say, no, hold on, that might not. But I'm very optimistic. And in the idea business, you have to be, because people come to you to say, hey, I have this idea, what can we do with it? And so I like to help monetize, I like to help strategize. And that's all of what we do there is a combination of business and design. And so it kind of ties in well with startup companies as well as established companies, because a lot of what we're going to talk about today is, okay, so you built this great brand, now what? The whole point of this is to grow your business, to make sales, to make money. So we're going to touch on that as well. All right, so we'll keep it moving. So tell me just briefly, I know a lot of you guys are business owners, but why did you come out tonight? Besides the pizza and the drinks, what is your idea of what branding is? Or what do you think you want to get out of tonight? So I make sure that I cover the right areas. Anybody?
How to brand, make sure you're doing it right.
Okay, good.
And what's your target market?
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Good. We're going to cover that. Anybody else?
What makes a brand memorable?
Yes, great. We're going to cover that too.
The best place is to focus your energy.
Okay, perfect.
I'm wondering if branding is different for e-commerce space versus the regular space.
Okay.
I feel there's a difference.
Okay. Yep, we'll talk about that.
I think just overall the blanket statement too, if you can go over branding, because you can spend a lot of money on branding.
Yep.
But really utilizing your resources
Right.
on like a minimal budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's a great point. I definitely want to make this talk attainable. I don't want to talk to you about what IHOP did and how I hated the IHOP thing and all this other stuff, because that's not something that may necessarily apply to you. I want to talk about branding, but I want it to be realistic with what people's budgets would be and so forth. What do you guys think is a powerful brand?
Any brand that you can remember.
Like name one that you would, Coca-Cola, Nike, right? Yeah, and we're going to talk about branding in the sense of business, because some people, I've been in networking groups where somebody's like, yeah, I do branding, and then they're like, what do you do? And then they're like, well, I put your logo on a Frisbee and on a squeeze ball, and that's not what we're going to talk about today. That's not branding per se. So what we're going to talk about is the power of credibility. With good branding, you're going to develop trust with people. So I love this quote, and it's Jeff Bezos. So he says that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So what are people saying about you as a business owner or your business when you're not in the room? That's going to be a testament to good branding. And this is another piece. This is Howard Schultz. If people believe they share values with a company, they will stay loyal to the brand. So the values of your company are super important as well, because brand loyalty is clutch. I mean, people will buy the same brands over and over again. So the biggest misconception is that branding is a logo, right? They say, well, I don't need branding, I have a logo. And it's like, no, you don't understand. It's so much more to it. So what I like to do is this is an illustration of basically the iceberg model, right? There's what we see at the tip, and then there's everything else below it. And this is everything we see. Typically, people are only focused on the name of the company, the trademark, if it's proprietary, the visual identity, the design elements, the logo, everything above the surface. But everything below the surface is really what's the most important part of your business, right? Your mission statement, your target demographic, you mentioned that. So business process, what's the customer experience? What are the differentiators? When you mentioned, well, how do I stand out? It's going to be the differentiator. We're going to discuss some examples of being different from everybody else. What I like to call the get in line concept. The idea like, oh, I'm going to open up a pizza restaurant. Okay, well, if it's going to be cheese pizza, then get in line because there's a ton of them, right? So if you're starting a new business in a crowded space, you definitely want to be different. So the mission statement is usually where I start with people when they come in to meet with us, because this gives me a really big indicator of what's that brand identity going to look like. What do they stand? What do they stand for? What is the basic purpose? Who are and who should be your customers? What makes your company different? That's going to be a recurring theme here. Brand strategy. One of the best ways to achieve this is to align your brand with your unique value propositions. Again, it's differentiating amongst your competitors. Brands that stand out from the competition are purposely disruptive or different. That's a key one. That's going to help you stand out. This is one of my favorite examples. I know he's under fire for a number of things, but we won't go into all that. But the idea that, well, first of all, before I offend anybody, does anybody drive a Prius? I'm just saying. Does anybody drive one? Do you do?
Yeah, that's what it is.
All right. Then I won't. It's not. Yeah. Well, with the Prius, it's not exactly the car that your teenager would want to drive to the prom. Let's just be honest. Like, you drive that because you want to let people know, hey, I love the planet. I want to. I recycle. So. You're making a statement with it, right? But prior to Tesla coming out, right? Tesla had this idea for the technology of a electric car, but instead of just coming out with another electric car, they came out with a luxury electric car. So they became the only ones doing that, And their technology now is to the point where they have so much torque that they can, outrace a Porsche in a quarter mile. I mean, they've really done a great job with it, but they became their own niche or their own. They really don't have any competitor. There isn't another electric car that you could think of, although Porsche is coming out with the Mission E and all this other stuff. But these guys have been out there. They're perfecting it. So they're a great example of being disruptive and being different to come out into a market. This is one of my favorite. I haven't tried them yet, but this is one of my favorite examples of a disruptive brand. And really cool branding, because if you see their logo, it's like the cookie that's like a moon because it's been bit out of, and all this other, that kind of stuff, turns me on right there. I gotta say, because it's just cool. It's just like to come up with that. So if these guys would have just said, hey, we're coming out with we're gonna make cookies, we're gonna be another Mrs. Fields, they probably wouldn't have been as successful as they are. Like, I literally thought they were just in New Haven, right? Because I thought they were just catering to like Yale, but they're all over the place. If you go to their website, they're popping up all over the country. And their whole thing is that they will deliver till like 3, 4 in the morning. Yeah, that's their whole thing. It's insomnia cookies.
I thought it put you to sleep because there's so much sugar. Like low blood sugar.
It could be, but basically what their whole thing is that they, instead of just coming out and saying we're going to be another bakery or we're going to make cookies, they had something different. And it's something, as an entrepreneur, if you're coming out with something, you got to have something that's going to make it stand out amongst the competition. And I think they do a great job of doing that. Communicating those differences effectively, that's key. So as we saw with the branding for Insomnia Cookies, you could see that in their branding, that they were saying like the moon and we're up late and we're different and all that other stuff. So communicating that through your brand, your logo, the name, your print, all that stuff should be consistent. And that's going to be another recurring thing. Being different, but then being consistent in your messaging, because as we'll find out, people don't necessarily read, right? They kind of just glance at things, and they need to see the same thing 20 different ways before they really hits them over the head.